stories about the bright side of education.
Somos Sunnyside!
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. Today I have the great privilege of having a special guest on my show. Today we have Lucy Pacheco, a senior at Desert View High School on the show, and really this month we are going to highlight our seniors. This is all about senior highlights. This month is dedicated to our seniors as they are nearing graduation, and we want to make sure that we tell their stories. We tell their stories of their success stories, their struggles, their challenges, and what lies ahead for all of them. So welcome, Lucy. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm actually doing really good today.
Good. And we're here at DV. Love to visit the DV campus, my former stomping grounds here. As I always tease Miss Duddleson, the principal here at Desert View. I was the former principal here at Desert View High School and spent many years here and many happy years. And so I miss that. I miss just being around students. I miss this time of year, because there's a lot of ceremonies, a lot of celebration. It's the culmination of the work that has been put in by everyone, your educators, your teachers, all the support staff, counselors, administrators, the students, right? The students putting in the work, and also the parents, their role is raising their children, and so it's neat to see that they're all grown up, for the most part. I think it took me a little longer to grow up after high school, but they're all grown up. And so tell us a little bit about, I think for the listeners, I want to talk about the student experience. So first of all, you're Sunnyside homegrown. Tell us where you went to school, elementary, middle, and high school, and you can give some shout outs to those individuals that had an impact in your life, Lucy.
So I actually started off at Los Amigos Elementary School. That was quite a while ago, but it was really fun. And then I went off to Challenger Middle School and ended up here at Desert View High School. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, again, homegrown, Los Amigos, Challenger, and now graduating at Desert View Jaguar. One of the things that when we talk about student success amongst our administrators, we always talk about how, I hope it comes out right, but we talk about how it's not fair that high schools get all the accolades, right? Because if you're working in high school, you see the success, immediate. It's right there in front of you. As kids graduate, as they're earning prestigious scholarships, as they're earning other awards. But what I want to say here is, as you talked about Los Amigos, Challenger, and Desert View, everybody has a part of that success that shaped you as a person, that shaped your, life. So to those teachers at Los Amigos, to those teachers at Challenger, a big thank you to them, because they have a great deal of, they play a big role in your success as a student. And speaking of success, Lucy will be graduating as a co-valedictorian. That's right. That means she is number one in her class, and probably right around 400 students, maybe a little less, a little more. Congratulations, Lucy. How does that feel? Like when you were told, because I know how that works. Being a former high school principal, you run the numbers, and then you say, okay, here's our valedictorian. Then you bring them in, and we double check our numbers all the time, right? Making sure that we got them right.
Yeah.
And so, how did it feel when you were you surprised? Did you know already?
So I was a little surprised simply because of the way it was announced. They kind of did salutatorian, and then first co-valedictorian, and second one. It's a bit of a bittersweet feeling. I think it's really nice to kind of get the recognition of I did this and I get the title. At the same time, it is kind of I don't know. I don't think I fully absorbed the title I'm valedictorian. But yeah, it's a little bittersweet. I'm very appreciative and thankful for the title, but at the same time, it's wow, I actually did that, and Absolutely. It takes a while to kind of take that in.
Well, it just shows how selfless you are. I mean, you're a humble person, but here's what my message to you is: absorb it. Feel good.
Yeah.
Feel proud of yourself, because it is quite the accomplishment. And you didn't take it from anybody. You didn't steal it from anyone. You earned it. You're number one. And so, I think the question I always have for students is, when you entered high school, did you say, I want to be valedictorian, I want to be number one in my class? Did you have those goals, or talk a little bit about that? Because I want our student listeners, I want all our other listeners to understand like the approach, right?
Yeah.
Because I know when I entered high school, I didn't even understand GPA, I didn't understand any of that. I was just like, I need to be eligible to play sports. That's it, right? And so tell us a little bit about your approach as you entered high school. Like, what was your thinking?
Yeah. So my class was actually like the COVID class. So my freshman year was fully online. My second semester was a bit of a hybrid. So I was coming into class. There was only like 4 kids in my class, and there wasn't really anyone on campus. So it was a bit of a transition going from like a not so finished middle school experience to now I'm a freshman in high school and I'm going through all my high school classes online. I actually never went in with the mentality of like, oh my goodness, I need to be valedictorian. I knew the title existed, but it was never something that I was aiming for, which I think was essential, because I know sometimes, in a lot of movies or media, it's portrayed that, if you want the title, you have to move your schedule around. You have to make sure you have all those GPA boosts that they like to call. And I don't think that's like a good, this is my personal belief, I don't think that's a good approach to it, simply because at the point of seeing it like, I need to be, I know some people say like, I need to be the best, or I need to be number one. You're kind of removing like the collaboration aspect of learning and like education, and you're more so implementing competition, which I prefer the collaboration over the competition, because in that way I'm like, I'm actually just here at school to collaborate with my peers, to learn from my teachers, to kind of get this mentoring throughout the school, as opposed to like, the person sitting next to me is my competitor. It's more like, they're my peer, and we're useful resources for one another, and together we're going to flourish. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so well spoken. I mean, you kind of like just shut me up, right now, because I'm like in awe of your response, and the reason why is for 2 reasons. One is, as much as we want to forget the pandemic and the effects of the pandemic, you're right. This is the COVID graduating class. When you talk about challenging transitions, this class didn't quite get to finish middle school, because we were doing, virtual learning and stuff like that. And then your transition to freshman year probably wasn't as smooth either, because we were still in that funk, right?
Yeah.
And so, there was a couple years lost, and of course, I remember, but it's just, you keep thinking you want to move past that. And every year we've had graduation speeches the last couple years, that comes up every time, the COVID piece, and so definitely it played a impacted students and the student experience. I love this piece of collaboration versus competition that you're talking about, because in many ways you're correct, when sometimes we do have students chasing the GPA, chasing the valedictorian, chasing the points, right? Because for those that don't know, to our listeners, is some classes are weighted, right? I mean, your AP classes, your honors classes, they're weighted, and so that's why those individuals that take those classes, that's why you have those GPAs above a 4.0, right? You have the 4.2s, the 4.4s, up to like 4.6, and so just GPAs that are just kind of out of this world, right? And so, I think sometimes that gets in the way of, what are we really here for, in school? And I don't want to downplay. I mean, valedictorian is a special recognition, and you should be proud of it. But obviously you understand the piece of it is a little bit of a competition, right? If you want to finish out on top. But I think more importantly is, what do you get out of learning, right? What do you get out of learning instead of chasing the grade and chasing the GPA?
Title,
So I love that GPA boost comment that you made. So let me ask you this: as you entered high school, was your goal always to get straight A's? I mean, was that the thing? And then valedictorian just worked out, or what approach did you take, or were you challenging yourself to I need to take the most rigorous courses to get the experience?
I think it was a little bit of a combination of both. I think as a student, you kind of always kind of push yourself to get the A simply because it's like, oh, you want to be able to show your learning and stuff. What was also a little bit different for me is that when I entered freshman year, we still had the 0 to 100 grading policy, and it was like midway through my sophomore year that it kind of changed. So your mentality on the grade kind of had to change as well. So I think it was always the goal to kind of get that good grade simply for like you kind of know that it's going to have an effect on like, oh, once you apply to colleges, they look at your grades, or once you apply to scholarships and like a lot of merit-based things. So I know it was something important. But I think ultimately it was like when it came to course selection and taking my courses, I didn't want to take the rigorous course load, but more so for myself of like, oh, I know I took this math class last year, so I can take the honors math class.
Challenge yourself.
Yeah, to challenge myself as opposed to like, oh, actually, I want to choose this class because I get a GPA booster. I want to choose this class.
Absolutely, and these things coexist, right? I'm not saying it's one way or the other.
Yeah.
We don't have to say strictly collaboration or strictly competition. I think they can. I think they're both good.
Yeah.
Right. I think you have to be a little competitive. You have to be competitive with yourself. You know, and I know you talked about not really wanting to be competitive with your peers because at the end of the day, you're peers, right? And at the end of the day, there's gonna be a couple. In this case, there's co-valedictorians here at Desert View High School, but usually it's one person, right? That's going to finish on top, and that doesn't mean that person is any better or any smarter. It just means that person probably took the right course load, but also was very successful in performing. And so, obviously, grades matter, right? I mean, grades do matter, but more importantly, learning matters and your preparation as you move on. So in your opinion, what, because we always talk about, every school district has their mission, vision, and they have their portrait of the graduate. And for us, it's every student graduating college, career, and community ready. I think it fits. I love that. I think it leaves options. It's not saying everybody has to go to college. It's not saying everybody has to do a career. It's saying you can do it all if you want, right? And then you give back to your community. And so, we also talk about identity, purpose, and agency. And we want, when we talk about the student experience, we want our students to leave our school system, graduate from our school system with a strong sense of identity as a person, right? What is my identity? A strong sense of a purpose, like what is my purpose in life? What do I want to go out and accomplish? And then those agentic behaviors, the student agency piece, that I can compete. I do have the skill sets to be successful. And so that's, we think of that as student experience, but when you drill down, what is that exactly, right, for students? So, what would be your advice to students, about the student experience? I know, and it just strictly doesn't have to be about high school, but, as you go from elementary and then you transition to middle and then transition to high school, what's your message to students? What should be their focus? And I know it's different for everybody, but, just overall, what would you suggest to them?
Honestly, I would suggest, my words of advice would be like, experience it all. I know a lot of times, we're stuck in this like area of like, oh, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my purpose is. Like, who am I really? And I think that's something that I struggled with, especially coming into high school. I realized that the places where I learned the most about myself and the most about what I think is my purpose, what I think is my purpose, was by taking on those challenges that I more so was like, you know what, let me try this out. Even though I don't know if I'll like it, I wanted to try it out. For me, this came in a lot of ways. Coming in my freshman year, I decided to join the ISTEM Academy here at Desert View High School, and that's had a big impact on the career of choice that I want to pursue, which is now engineering. I feel like that's where I picked up a lot of the passion aspect of it and learned more about it. I've realized that I want to go out of state, and that came from kind of applying to go to these like fly-in programs at universities where they fly you out and they're like, oh, we want you to come check out our campus. And so being able to travel by myself
So you've done that? You've
Yeah.
gone on visits? And
Yeah,
they've flown you out?
Yeah,
Wow.
so starting my
Where have you visited? What schools have you visited?
my junior year, I got the chance to visit Duke University for 2 weeks, and I was actually living
Wow.
like the student experience right there. It was like this program on global health, and it was really nice. I've also gone to visit Williams College, which is in Massachusetts.
Okay.
I've also gone to Ohio to visit Denison University. And then actually like 2 weeks ago, I went to go visit Trinity College, which is in Connecticut. And I also visited the school that I'm committing to, which is Swarthmore College, which is in Philadelphia.
Swarthmore College.
Yeah, Swarthmore.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
so
did not know that. I mean, we learn something new every day. So they
yeah.
treated you like when I think of this, you had college visits like a blue chip athlete does, right? I mean, they're kind of recruiting you. Here's the plane. Let's go visit. They laid down the red carpet for you, and that is such a cool experience. Honestly, I know students have, I'm not naive where I know students take visits and go visit schools that they want to attend, but I never knew, that they fly you out for these academic scholarships, academic opportunities, and that says a lot about you, and it says a lot about the program, in terms of engineering, because that program has been super successful. A shout out to Mr. Gutierrez, shout out to the iSTEM and precision machining program that's here at Desert View, that has been successful for many, many years. I think it's really changed the lives of many, students and their families. Because I mean, it provides opportunity. It's certainly a family atmosphere, and you do sometimes you don't hear of some of these small colleges. I mean, besides Duke University, which is a big name college. But some of these universities that you had mentioned, like Ohio and Trinity and stuff, and so, but they specialize in certain programs, and I think what I get excited about when I think of the precision machining program, and I know there's the drafting and design part of it, is I love the fact that we're having more and more females join the class, right? And more, because back in the day, people probably perceived engineering and machinist as it's a male thing to do, right? And you guys are breaking barriers, and as a matter of fact, I mean, I think you guys had more females, seniors, right? Seniors.
Yes. So we actually recently took a trip to Peru.
Yes.
For
let's
the
talk
prosthetic.
about that.
Oh yeah. So in the Ice and Precision Manufacturing Club, we've recently taken on the project to create prosthetic legs for some third world countries like Peru and Guatemala. And recently we actually got the chance to visit Peru. And on the trip to Peru, there was actually more females than there was males going on the trip. But it was a really good experience. I really would qualify it as life-changing, simply because we saw so much, and helping these people, really seeing how much we impacted these people's lives was something really important.
Right. Yeah. No, it's mind blowing. When we found out that you guys are going to Lima, Peru, we knew that it was going to be a life-changing experience. But once we saw the pictures and we saw the videos of the work you guys did, and the work you did with the amputees, and speaking to the crowds that were there, I mean, I just got goosebumps, because it was just so, it's just so memorable, and you're actually changing lives. You're changing the lifestyle of these amputees, and you're working with people that never had the opportunity or couldn't afford, a prosthetic leg. And, one of the things I learned when I was talking to the students and to the instructor, is that not all amputees are qualified for a prosthetic leg. And so part of it was telling individuals, we're sorry, we can't help you. Yeah, we can't help you. You don't fit the need. But those that did fit the need, wow, what a life-changing experience. You're changing their lives, forever. And so when you talk about those types of service projects, I mean, that's something you'll never forget ever in your life. And so equally impressive is our students manufacturing parts to that prosthetic leg. You guys were part of the build, not only delivering the
the product.
prosthetic leg, right? The product.
Mm-hmm.
But once you were there, you had to adjust that product to fit the individual.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's definitely that's cool. I mean, it's super cool. And I know you guys received a medal, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit of a presidential medal?
Presidential award, yeah.
For your service, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really, I don't know. Yeah, I think it was really impressive to kind of get recognized for the work we did. While doing it, it was more so like, oh, we're doing this from the bottom of our hearts. Like, we want to be able to kind of provide this free service. But actually getting recognized for it, I know we were actually at the ceremony last night, and it was really like, it was like kind of like the conclusion we needed to it all. Like, oh, we all went together. A lot of us were seniors, and seeing how like we were all together for like one last time of like, oh, this is the work we did, and we kind of got to enjoy.
Brings a little bit of closure, right?
Yeah, a little bit of closure.
In terms of what you guys did the entire year. So, you know, for our listeners, I mean, there's an outstanding program, many outstanding programs here at Desert View High School, but precision machining has definitely been, you know, that shining star for several years. I mean, it's a national recognized program. You know, students are earning college credit through the program. They're earning industry certifications. You know, you get to experience internships, and they're, you know, a lot of our students that leave this program are not only college ready but career ready. And and some students do both. I know they get hired by companies, and those companies pay their college, so it's super cool. So wow, what an experience, Lucy. You know, I love the advice that, you know, you're giving incoming students to get involved, right? You know, and I think they've heard that many times. I don't think they understand how important it is to get involved in your school. When we say get involved, there's many activities. I truly believe that there's this piece, I always call it school connectedness, like what brings every student to school every day, right? And for some individuals like you, it may be engineering, it may be precision machining. For others, it's athletics. For others, it's music, it's art, it's folklorico. You know, it's junior ROTC. You know, there's all these programs available at the high school, and you have to make the most of your experience, right? And that means sometimes you have to challenge yourself. You have to take that risk and not be afraid. You know, many times we talk about, you know, and I talked about this on opening day. You know, we do a big opening day, and I welcome the entire staff, all the employees of the district, and you know, we share the student experience with them. And one of the things I talked about last year was this piece of imposter syndrome. You know, this piece, because I felt like I struggled with that a little bit. You know, I felt like, you know, you feel this lack of sense of belonging. You feel like you don't deserve, you know, these accolades and stuff like that. And so, you know, we always try to tell students, no, you know what, you belong. Like what you've done, Lucy, you've earned it. Don't let anybody take that away from you, right? And don't be afraid to talk about that. It's not bragging, it's being proud of your accomplishments. And I want, you know, students and children of this community to hear that. You know, I'm lucky enough to been you know, raised in this community. I've said it many times on the podcast. I'm a graduate of the district. Went to Mission Manor, Chaparral, and then graduated from Sunnyside High School. And so I always take it personal, because I always you know, throw this question out to our staff: why not our kids, right? Why not our kids? Because they deserve the very best, and they can compete with anybody. And I know you will continue to compete with everybody out there. You know, wherever, you know, you end up. Whatever career you end up in. I know you're talking about engineering, going to Swarthmore University in Philadelphia. I mean, that is just awesome. And so, you know, so future goals. You know, talk a little bit more about that. And so, you know, what field of engineering are you planning to study, and what kind of job do you hope to land?
So I haven't yet decided the like actual field I want to go into, but one that really interests me a lot is architectural engineering. I've had the chance to talk with some architectural engineers, and a lot of times what they do is that they're kind of the bridge between the architect and the engineer. Many times architects are very focused in on the arts of something, whereas the engineers are just fully math. And there kind of has to be that bridge between both of them of like, oh, how do we get both components?
Sure.
One thing that really interests me a lot about them also is that they kind of are this they kind of bring in this third component of like the humanities of engineering. So a lot of times what they'll do is that if they're constructing a building or some sort of infrastructure, they actually go out, interview the people that are going to use the building, and tailor it to suit their needs. One prime example of this would be, like, let's say I'm making a retirement home and I'm an architectural engineer. And so maybe while I'm interviewing the people that are going to be living at this retirement home, I recognize that they get really dry skin. As you get older, your skin absorbs less moisture, so therefore you're always dry and they always have to apply lotions. So maybe as an architectural engineer, I recognize that issue, and maybe in some of the living spaces, I make them so that they're a bit more humid, so that way the people that are living there are actually more comfortable living there.
Wow,
Yeah.
That's deep. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever thinks of that when you go into a building.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's exciting. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, you know, one thing I do know is that you'll be successful as you move on. And, you know, again, you know, I love to ask the questions about messaging to students, you know, and I want to circle back to this piece of imposter syndrome. I know for a fact, and again, you know, I felt this way when you were in a classroom and the teacher's going over instruction, the teacher poses a question, and you know the answer, but you're more worried about being wrong, you know, stating the wrong answer, than participating and just learning from it, right?
Yeah.
And so I remember sitting in classrooms and I did not raise my hand, and I should have raised my hand.
Yeah.
And somebody else raised their hand and they answered the question, and I, you know, I was talking to myself and I would say like, darn,
Like I should have said
I
it.
should have said it. I had the right answer. I knew it, you know. And so, and that's just an example, but
Yeah.
you know, that's, you know, this imposter syndrome is bigger than that. It's kind of like this block, right? This roadblock in our minds where, you know, we need to feel that, you know, we're part of society, we're accepted in society, and we've earned everything that's come to us.
Yeah.
Nobody has handed that to us, and sometimes, and I think, you know, being Mexicano and in the Hispanic communities, we're taught to be humble people, right? You're taught to not brag about yourself,
yeah.
right? No seas maderista y esto el otro, right? You know, and you know, some people say you're conceited and this and that, but it's not bragging. It's you know, it's telling your story.
Yeah.
It's letting people know that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm accomplishing, and it's really being confident, right? Don't mistake confidence for bragging. That's not arrogance. You know, showing off and you know, doing all that is different, right? That's a different tone.
Yeah.
And so many times when I talk to students and I ask them about their accomplishments, it's like, you know, it's almost like I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, yeah, I am a 4.0 student, and and almost like they don't want to tell you, and they should be proud of that. They should say, I worked my butt off, and I've taken these challenging courses, and I'm proud that I'm a 4.0 kid, or a 4.6 or a 3.5, right? I mean, my GPA was never that high. I think I had as high as like a 3.2, but I was proud of it.
Yeah.
So what's your message to those students that are feeling this self-doubt and feeling like they lack the confidence, right? I mean, because we've all been there, you know, let's be vulnerable, right? I mean, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And so what's your message?
So first off, like, with the message that I'm going to say, I think it's important to kind of say that I too have had that self-doubt. I'm actually, like, working my way, like, as you said, that kind of roadblock that's in your mind of, like, oh, but do I really deserve it? So I'm not here to say, like, oh, I figured it out, I have all the answers in the world, you know.
It's a process.
It's a very long process to that extent. I think, like, first off, I want to touch on the whole culture thing. Like, you're right. A lot of times, especially within, like, the Hispanic community, which I am a part of, like, you're kind of taught to, like, oh yeah, like, even if you do a good job, like, oh yeah, like, be humble about it. But I feel like sometimes within the whole, like, be humble part of it, like, you kind of go too far, and then all of a sudden you're not even acknowledging what you're doing. So it's really hard to kind of find that balance, because so often you're like, oh, like be humble, be humble, be humble, and you kind of get lost in it, and it's like, oh, well, now I'm being too humble, like people don't even know what I'm doing, and it's like, am I really getting recognition? So that is a very, very important part of it, which I don't think gets acknowledged enough. But my message would kind of be to, like, it's going to be a long process, and I'm still working through it, but I think it's important to share what you're doing, but also be thankful to those who have allowed you to be in the position that you are.
Lean on your support.
Yeah, lean on your support,
right?
and kind of, I think the difference between like being, I guess some people would call like egotistic, and then also being proud is kind of taking in what you've done, like saying what you've done, maybe not overinflating it or anything, but being proud and confident about what you're doing, and being thankful for those who have allowed you to be there.
I think of like, and where I learned this is when I've done mock interviews with students when they're applying for prestigious scholarships. And I've been asked by some counselors to come in and interview the students, right? And I go through the questions, and I come in and sometimes they're a little intimidated because I'm the superintendent. I come in a suit and all that. And I try to play that part, because when you go to these, when I think of like, interviews for a scholarship, interviews for a job, interviews to get into a college, people are going to make a judgment based on how you respond. And what I find is our students hold back, right? They hold back. They answer the questions very respectfully and very, well, and they articulate very well. But you also got to take the stance of, I need to sell myself here. I need to really show my confidence. I need to show what I've accomplished and that I've earned it, right? And so, but they're always a little hesitant, and that's where I have to step in and say, like, no, you belong, and don't let anybody, tell you that you don't belong. And so, I want to say that I'm super proud of you, Lucy. I think that, you epitomize the whole student experience. I mean, what you've accomplished, that's what we want for all students. And we know all students can be valedictorians, and I'm not referring to the valedictorian piece. I'm talking about the student experience piece. That, you're homegrown, you come to high school here, you went through our system, Los Amigos, Challenger, and Desert View. You took advantage of taking on rigorous courses. You got involved in one of our career academies, which is the iSTEM Academy, and you made the best out of your situation, and now you're reaping the benefits of it. You've put yourself in a position where, you listed 5 colleges, you've taken 5 visits, and you have choices. They want you, right? And so it is super cool. I also wanted, a little shout out to La Familia Pacheco. I got to speak to your mom the other night, and I know your sister Amy's also a graduate here. I was actually her proud principal, and so it's cool that you definitely come from a family that supports the district, and wants the best for their children. So un saludo a la familia Pacheco. Lastly, as we wrap up here, so when you think about those teachers that had a huge impact and helped shape your path, helped shape who you are today, from Los Amigos Challenger and now here at Desert View, what's your message to your teachers?
Well, I know there's a lot of teachers that I would like to thank, and I don't want to leave any of them out, so I think I just want to make this broad statement of
smart move, Lucy. Smart move.
Well, it's because there's so many teachers that I feel like I don't want to leave.
You start naming, you're going to forget one, right? I get it.
But ultimately, my message is just thank you to all my teachers who I've had along the years. I don't think I've ever expressed that enough. I've had a lot of teachers who really had an impact on who I am as a person today, or how I carry myself today, and I think it's really important to acknowledge our teachers as much as we do. So yeah, thank you to all my teachers, all my elementary school teachers, my middle school teachers, even the ones that aren't here anymore. Thank you to my high school teachers as well. I know I'm still in high school, but I think they deserve just as much recognition, especially right now. And I know there aren't teachers, but le quiero decir gracias a mi familia por todo lo que me han dado y las oportunidades que me han dado de presentarme aquí en la escuela. Sé que no lo digo tanto como debo, pero muchas gracias por todo lo que han hecho por mí. And yeah.
Felicidades, bien hecho. And yeah, so teachers make a difference. I mean, our teachers definitely matter. I mean, we all can, give examples of how teachers have shaped our lives, how they've made a difference in our lives. And I still remember, my teachers as old as I am, my kindergarten teachers, my, middle school teachers, my high school, I can name them, right?
Yeah.
You remember their names and you remember those experiences. And so teachers are super important. And so I know sometimes it's a thankless job. They do so much for our students. And this is the time where we want to say thank you to them. Thank you for all you do. And what you do is definitely life-changing as well. And so, as we wrap up here, we're excited to see what the future holds for you, Lucy. I'd love to interview you in 4 years when you're a college graduate.
I'll be back.
Yeah, to see what you're doing, and maybe you can interview students with me, and we can go from there. So we will be seeing you at graduation.
Yes.
I believe that's May 23rd at 7 p.m. here at Desert View Stadium.
Everyone's invited.
So everyone's invited. Come on out.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a good time celebrating our seniors and this class of 2024. So that wraps up this episode of Somos Sunnyside. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Somos Sunnyside.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it entertaining. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and share our podcast with la comunidad. For updates on future episodes and more, be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website at susd12.org. We appreciate your support and can't wait to have you back for the next episode. Hasta la próxima vez en Somos Sunnyside.